Okay, so Gideon, I'm asking you the question. We're in the Torah reading. We're in Genesis 26, verses 24 to 25. Starting in verse 24, that night Yahweh appeared to him. That night Hashem appeared to him and said, I am the God of your father Abraham. Fear not, for I am with you, and I will bless you and increase your offspring for the sake of my servant Abraham. Isaac is going to respond to this. And the way that Isaac responds to this is going to reveal something to us about what it means to serve the God of Abraham. Okay? He's going to copy something he saw his father do. In response to this, two things, Yahweh appearing to him and then speaking to him in a particular location. His response is in verse 25. So in chapter 26, verse 25. So Isaac built an altar there, and he called on the name of Yahweh, or called on Hashem. He called on the name. Okay, and Isaac pitched his tent there, and his servants started digging a well. So he stuck around and put his tent where the altar was constructed. This is a common thing that Abraham does. Why? What is it? There are a few questions. Why does he respond to a local appearance of Yahweh and that promise by building an altar? And then what does it mean to call on the name of Yahweh?
I don't know what it means to call on the name of Yahweh.
Yeah.
But I see the first question is that it's because to be in his presence, to respond.
To be in whose presence? For who to be in whose presence?
Yahweh's presence.
For Isaac. So Isaac could be in Yahweh's presence. That's why he built an altar?
Yahweh responded, Yahweh talked to him in his presence. So he responded in Yahweh's presence.
By seeking his presence or something? So you're saying it has to do... I will say this. You are right. The altar has to do with his presence. It has to do with his local presence. And it is a response. This is actually something that dawned on me when I was listening to it. And it's a foundational point. The word kara in Hebrew means to call out. Okay? By extension, it can mean to read. Because most people can't read in ancient times. And if you have a book, it's hard to make books and scrolls. So even if everybody could read, typically we can't read along, so only one person reads, so they call out, right? So in order to call out what's there, I'm reading, right? In Leviticus 23, here's another example of what call out means. Kara can mean to literally call out. It can mean to read. It can also mean to summon. Shabbat is a day for a holy assembly, Mikra Kodesh, a holy calling out, a holy assembling, a holy praying, a holy reading, because to cry out, to call out also means to pray. Kara means to pray as well. But watch this. The reason summoning people to an assembly would be called a kara or a mikra is in order to get everybody there, you need like a town crier, right? In ancient times, you can't call them on the phone. You can't look at your watch and see the time. Do you know what I mean? So what you do is you have somebody who's like, it's time! You call. Does that make sense? You summon them. You call out to them. I believe the Torah is saying that, and this gives me goosebumps, it's exciting. Isaac saw that Yahweh showed up in a local place. He commemorated it by building down a touchstone in a place for him to come back to. When he called on the name of Yahweh, it doesn't mean he did it one time, or they just said, yeah, oh, Yahweh, 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 this kind of thing. He summoned him. To call the name of Yahweh is to summon Yahweh. To summon someone is to call to them to go from where they are to come to where you are, to meet with you.
Okay.
So the purpose of the altar is, first, Hashem reveals himself and shows up in a place. Isaac recognizes that the God of heaven has manifested himself on the earth in a particular spot. He then wants to repeat this. So he builds an altar as a touchstone to both memorialize the event and to get him to invite him back again. When he calls on the name of Yahweh, it's not a one-time event. He goes on calling on the name of Yahweh. He goes on summoning Yahweh to meet him at that point. It becomes a meeting spot. And not only is it a new meeting spot, it demonstrates that the whole point of life, the whole point of living, is meeting with Hashem, meeting with God. Because then he moves his tents there and he lives there. He digs wells there. He tries to stay put. Does that make sense? He reorients his entire life around where God meets with him. Around where he summons God and where he goes to meet with God.
Okay, where do you get that?
Many places. It's first off, we're in the book Bereshit. Okay, so in the first time in the Torah that someone calls on the name of Yahweh, it's actually the son of Seth. So Adam has two sons. They kill each other. Or I'm sorry, one kills one and the other is essentially dead to Adam and Eve. He goes into exile. God gives them a son to replace him. Seth. Okay? It means a placement. Yahweh places him. Seth has a son, and his name is like his grandfather's name. It means mankind, but it's a bad name for mankind. Adam is a good name. It means from the earth or earthling, right? Enosh, that's his name. It means human, but it means one who's sick or weak. And it says, in the days of Enosh, okay, they began to call mankind the same word for mankind. Mankind began to call on the name of Yahweh. It means they began the process of constructing altars and summoning him and meeting with him. That is, an altar is a tiny beginning and prototype of temple. Hashem's plan is temple. You track with me so far? Do you see that?
Yeah.
His desire is to meet with people.
Okay, so let's say someone builds an altar in the backyard.
Yes.
And they call on the name of Yeshua.
Uh-huh.
Do you talk to them? Or what does that mean?
That's a good question. What is required? What kind of altar or what kind of structure is required to meet with Yeshua today? An altar is always required to meet with Hashem. Always. An altar is a thing that receives blood. You are an altar. Humans are built based on that tabernacle model. So we are the altar. More specifically, our conscience is the place that he descends when we summon him. And what do you do with the fact that the craziest part of the story of Exodus? See, one way that Exodus is different from Bereshit, one way that the book of Exodus, Shemot, is different from the book of Genesis, is whenever you would summon God in Bereshit, he would come down and go back up, come down and go back up, right? In Exodus, he came down and didn't go back up. Because his whole plan all along was to recapture the Garden of Eden. To get to a place where eventually he would come to live with the people and never leave. It's a lot, but its foundation, I thought it would help people to see us try to do Deuteronomy 6 and work through problems. Do you have any other questions or thoughts about it? Like any kind of ideas about it?
No. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, it's the heart of the Torah. This is the heart of the Torah. God desires to be summoned by us and meet with us in a real place, and our whole life should be rallied around that. We should build our life around meeting with God. Literally, the word for times and rhythms is moedim, which means meetings. The sun and the stars are given for moedim, for signs in the sky, so we would know the meeting times. God desires to meet with us. It's the heart of creation. And he is extending this promise that he made to Abraham's son, Yitzchak. And he is saying, I will meet with you. I will be with you. Okay?